Now let's try to understand what the update statement does and how it works. Update statement at the back end works as a delete and the insert statement, but the overall effect that you see from the database or the table point of view is you see that the record or the number of rows or records have been updated. So let's try to do some practical stuff. So first of all, let's see how many rows exist in the employee table. So we have in total 8 rows, and we have employee IDs from 1 to 9. So let's assume that you want to change the name of all these rows or all these IDs to a certain name. And let's assume that name would be something like Stone. So the syntax for writing the update statement is, first of all, you need to write update keyword, then the table name. In our case, it is employee. So as soon as you type EMPL, you get the employee in the drop down of the artificial intelligence. So select that. After that, you need to write set. Again, set should be in caps as per the standards laid out by Microsoft. So update employee set, and then the column name. In our case, the column name was ename, so we will say ename equal to, as it is a varchar or of string type, you need to specify quotes, and we want to change the name to Stone. So that's it. So this is how the syntax look like. Update employee set ename equal to Stone. If you want to update more than one column, there is a different syntax for that. But first, stick to a single column update, and let's try to run it now. Select the statement and then press F5, and it says that 8 rows affected. And let's go back and check the data in the employee table, and you can clearly see that all the names have been updated. So the update statement has done its job. Now, what if we want to update more than one column in a table? And for that, you just have to specify comma and uh, type the other column name. So in this case, it would be employee ID, and we want to give the ID as 10. So let's see whether it works or not. So again, it has worked. It says 8 rows affected, and go back and check the data again. So you see the E name has been changed to Stone and the EID has been changed to 10. Now it's very rare that you want to update the entire table in a database, because you want to update certain rows, not the entire table, and those certain rows will be identified with the help of a where clause, that is a filter criteria. So let's try to check that. But before doing that, I think we'll have to drop the employee table first, because we have already updated all the values. So remember, the syntax for dropping table is drop table, and then the table name, table name is employee, and just select this and click on execute. So the table has been dropped. Now you need to create the table using the create command. So it's a good revision for you as well if you have forgotten the DDL statements. These are called DDL statements, drop and create. And then you need to insert values. So let's first of all insert uh, my name, that is location, to it, and then some more values. Okay, now I think we have enough data to demonstrate the practical. So let's get the data, and you can see that we have 5 rows. Each of the employee have different employee IDs. So now we can update certain rows based on the filter criteria. So the requirement now is that you want to update the table by changing the e name from John to Logan for employee ID 2. So how would you write it? The initial syntax will be same. So what you have to do is update employee, then set. In our case, we are changing the name. So e name would be here, and we are changing the name to Logan. So this is the new value that you want to give. And now comes the filter criteria where EID equal to 1. So select the statement, press F5, and it says one row affected. Again, go back to the employee table to check whether the data was updated or not. Okay, I specified employee ID 1, but I said in the beginning that we want to update employee ID 2. But that's okay. I mean, you know what we are doing. So what it has done is it has replaced the old name uh, for employee ID 1 with the new name of Logan. So it is working, and it's working based on the filter criteria. Now let's come to the multi-table updates. So in real-time situations or in real-time problems, you will have uh, two tables who are dependent on one another. That means that they have a common column or a common key. In such case, you want to update one table based on the data from the other table. So in that table, you first of all have to join these two tables, because there is no way you can combine the data from two tables by not specifying the join clause. So you have to join first. After joining, you need to update the first table based on the data from the second table. So let's see how many tables we have in order to demonstrate this. So I think we have two tables. First is select star from employee and press F5. So we have five rows in employee, and the other table that we created was org. This is a short form of organization. Again, press F5, and you can see we have two rows in the org table. But see, in org table you have employee IDs 8 and 9, whereas I think in employee you don't have employee IDs 8 and 9. Sorry for the less brightness. I just need to increase the brightness. Okay, so 8 and 9 does not exist in the employee table. So what we would do now is we will again take the help of a select statement that we studied in previous subchapters. So you need to insert the employee IDs that are there in the organization table into the employee table, so that you have some sort of data that exists both in the employee table and the organization table. So just select this bit and click on execute. So it says two rows affected. Now we are going to check the data for both the tables, and you can see that employee ID 8 and 9 are now present in the employee table, and their names are Leslie and George respectively. So now the condition you're given to update is you need to update the salary for employees who are developers from 1000 to 2000. So you got the criteria. What we want to do is update the salary for employees who are developers by level to 2000. So first of all, in order to approach this statement or in order to approach this problem, you need to specify the joining condition between the two tables. This problem can be done with the help of ORG table itself, but we want to demonstrate how you can use multiple tables in order to update value in one table using values from the other table. So what if you have this level information stored in a different table? In that case, you'll have to join the level table with the ORG table. So in our case, what we are going to do is you're going to start. Don't worry about the update syntax as of now. Just start by joining the tables. So you have employee table, and we'll give alias E to the employee table, and we need to specify inner join because that is our criteria. Inner join org o, and the joining condition is eid, so we'll specify e dot eid equal to o dot oid. Notice that you're not getting any IntelliSense in this case because you haven't specified any sort of operation that you will be performing, but don't worry about it. So the criteria was we need to update the salary. So the salary falls into the ORG table. So you will write update O because O is now the alias for ORG table, and then we'll say set salary equal to 2000. Now you just need to specify from. So this part is the joining operation, and it is same as you will find in your select statements. And if even if you want to use these into delete statements, you can use that. So this syntax remains the same, but the main change that you see here is that we need to include a from clause. In the ordinary update statement, you don't need a from keyword, but in this case, you will need the from keyword. So if you specify the alias, it's well and good. If you don't specify, that doesn't mean that you're losing out on something. You just have the extra work of writing the complete table name. But what we are doing is we are specifying update O set salary equal to 2000. So this is update remains the same. O is the table name, set is the keyword, salary is the column name, and this 2000 is new value. So this part is same, only this part is different. That is why it is different, because we have introduced multiple tables. So let's now run this. So it says 2 rows affected. So we forgot to do one more thing. We didn't specify a where clause. So we had to only update those employees who are developers, but don't worry about it. Now let's check the data first from the ORG table, because you have updated ORG using employee table. So the salary for both the employees now becomes 2000. Now we can include a where clause, again in the caps letters, and we can say that level is developers. And now let's say that the salary that we want to increase to is 3000, and if you run this, I think there is a spelling mistake, so let me check it. So it's developer, not developers. So just get rid of S and now execute this statement, and it says 1 row affected. Now let's check the data for ORG table. So you can see that the developer Leslie's salary has been increased to 3000 from 2000. So this is how the multi-level update statements work. The main point is that you need to specify the type of join you want to include. So most of the times it's an inner join. And also if you have some filter criteria, you need to specify the filter criteria with the help of a where keyword. Now moving on, the third type of DML statements are the delete statements. So we have talked about inserting data, we have talked about updating data. The only thing that now left is deleting data. So how does it work? So it works on row by row basis. So if you have any table and if you are going to perform a delete operation on top of that, the rows will be deleted one by one. And let's now talk about the syntax of delete statement. First of all, let's create a dummy table and we will call that table as tb dummy, and we will have id as of int type and varchar. We need to specify the column name, so we'll specify name as of varchar and just create this table. Press F5. So this is just to demonstrate how delete works, and we need to insert some values into it. Insert into tb dummy values. So one would be one and some name abc, and the other id would be 2 and some name xyz, and just execute this by clicking on the execute command. So you have two rows affected. Now see the data for this tb dummy 5. So you need to select it, press F5. So you have two rows ABC and XYZ. So we want to delete data from this table. We want to delete all the data from the table. So the syntax for writing delete or using delete statements is delete from table. So table name in our case is tb dummy. So we'll specify tb dummy. So notice that unlike the insert and the update statements where you have the option of specifying the columns, delete does not have the option of specifying the columns because it works on row by row basis. It will either delete the entire row or it will not delete at all. So when we run this delete from tb dummy by pressing F5, you get two rows affected. So if you query the tb dummy table now, you will not get any data because it has deleted the entire data from the table. Now again, this is a very rare circumstance or very rare condition that would be used in practical situations. Practically, you would want to delete some data based on some filter criteria. So let's again insert some data into this tb dummy table. tb dummy table, and it says two rows affected. Yeah. So what we want to do now is we want to delete only a row that has xyz as the name. So what we will write here is delete from, the initial syntax remains the same, tb dummy. Now the filter criteria comes into picture where name equal to xyz, and if you press F5, it says one row is affected. Now if you run this, you will see that the xyz name has gone from the table or has been removed from the table, and you only have a single row. So this is how the delete works. It's very similar to your select or the insert statements or the update statements. You just have to specify the where clause. Now we will come to the concept of delete using multiple tables. Again, as we discussed in the update statement, that if we want to delete data in one table using the information from the other table, how does it work? So for that we need a second table as well. So first of all, delete entire data and then insert two rows. Now we have two rows and two columns. So we'll create another table called create table tb dummy 2. So the dummy had employee ID and employee name. Now we will say employee ID and the department name. So we'll say ID remains the same of int type. Now we have department as the other column and execute it. Press F5. The command has been executed successfully. And now insert some data into it. Insert into tb dummy2 values. So the first value will be ID 1, and let's say the department is HR, and the second ID is 2, and the department is finance. Insert data into the tb dummy2 table. Press F5. Two rows affected. Now let's query the data from both the tables. tb dummy control C 2. So you can see that we have two rows in each of the tables. One table has name as the column and the other one has department as the other column. Now the requirement is you need to delete rows in tb dummy table where the department from tb dummy 2 table is HR. So again, as I told in the previous case, that if you have multiple tables, first thing that you should do is write the joining part of the syntax. So in our case, we have tb dummy as the first table. We'll call it t1, and it's an inner join case. So we'll write inner join, then tb dummy to t2 on t1 dot id equal to t2 dot id, and now the where condition is department should be HR. Now from where you want to delete from tb dummy, that is t1. So we will write delete from t1 . So you notice that the syntax for delete becomes a little different. So instead of from coming first, the from goes at the end, and you need to specify the table name before the from clause. Why from goes to the end is because we have the joining part of the statement. Had it been a single table delete, we would have used this from before the table name, but as this is a joining case of multiple tables, you need to use from after the table name. So that is what we have done. And you also must have noticed that I checked the statement in order to see whether the syntax is correct or not. The syntax is correct. Now you just need to execute this, and it says one rows affected. So our criteria was to delete from TB dummy where the department was HR. So department HR is of employee ID 1. So that means that employee ID 1 shouldn't be there in the TB dummy table. So let's select that, and you can see that employee ID 1 has been removed from the TB dummy table. So this is how the multiple statements work, or the update insert involving multiple statements work. It's all about practice. You just practice with some random scripts, or you can get the scripts from Google. Just try to run it, write it, and do some hands-on with it. I'm sure that you will get more confident, or you get the confidence too as you practice more and more. So now we have some more topics left in this chapter. One is SQL scripting, another important concept where we can save the SQL file and execute it later on. And then you have the concept of SQL CMD, that is also a useful concept, not used that much in day-to-day development work when it comes to the projects in the companies, but it's good to have knowledge. So we'll discuss this in the next sub chapters. So stay tuned.